Should be live any moment. Give me a second.
For sure.
Yo, what's up, folks? Check it out. This is EGL7. I actually have a special guest on. Now, just so you know, I do actually ask my online activists interview, what's your ideology? And actually, just tell you the truth, I consider myself closest to the anarchist movement. And actually, a man right here is actually also an anarchist. Does anarchy necessarily mean no government? Not really, right? But it doesn't mean that you're necessarily underneath someone else. And also, it means that, there's a lot of times where government comes short and anarchists can kind of like deal with those issues more readily or be more truthful about, because some people, they have like a certain system or ideology, and then they need that ideology to be perfect and solve all the problems. But, anarchists can be a little bit more open about saying that maybe no system is perfect. So definitely, this is a guy after my own heart. So he came on today. We've been having a little communications. It's been quite a while since he's been on. But we've been talking a little, we've been having a little back and forth. I think that there's, I think some of my Trump stuff has been concerning for you, which is, I think, is completely reasonable. And I think also there is, I can't say, yeah, he's definitely not, but there's some reasons for that. There's also the activities I've been involved. I'm just catching up. So I'm just catching up my audience with where I'm at mentally. So I guess nice to see you again. You have any
great to see you again.
Announcements for my audience?
Say that one more time.
I said, it's good to see you again. It's been a while, right? Yeah. Do you have any particular announcements for my audience, or do you have anything that you want to announce, or maybe you just want to talk about?
One of the things I would like to announce is that Evolving Seeds is moving forward with its largest initiative to date, which is the crowdfunding for a decentralized platform that would act as a revenue stream for intentional communities. So we're really trying to get moving on developing intentional communities because you cannot get people out of a cult while they're still in it. If you read a book about cults, it'll tell you that you have to separate the cult members from the cult. And the way I see it and the way Evolving Seeds presents it is that society, civilization, authority vested in strangers, these are all cults. Why? Because they have no actual scientific evidence to back up their claims of authority. There's no substantiation to their systems. And I subscribe to anarchy. I subscribe more so to abolition, and there really isn't much difference there unless somebody can clarify a difference. Anarchy just means no rulers. It doesn't mean no rules. So we are trying to, because we're trying to present to people that they operate in an anarchist capacity like 90% of their lives, 95, 97, 98% of their lives. Because nobody's forcing us to be on YouTube or forcing us to get off. Nobody's forcing us to go to work or forcing us to go home. Nobody, like most of our interactions are intrinsically anarchist, meaning no rulers are involved in deciding how we operate. But in that last 2 or 3%, that last 2 or 3% gets real wild, real wicked, and real fast. So that's what we're trying to differentiate with people. And back to the intentional communities, we can talk all day, but the system at large backs up John Q. Harmful's mentality. It backs up John Q. Harmful's worldview. So we can have a semi-equitable, semi-civil conversation and exchange viewpoints on the topic at hand. But at the end of the day, they get to go back into a racist, misogynist, xenophobic, unsustainable, predatory, exploitative society and environment, which reinforces the degenerate behavior rather than culling it or removing it. So these intentional communities are designed, and the intention for them is to not only give us a seat back at the table, because we're being priced out of even the bare essentials. This give us a seat back at the table, and we can start crowdfunding many of the things that we're being priced out of, like a home, certain necessities, and even many luxuries that we've been chronically kept out of for years.
I actually have a couple questions at this point. So I'm always fascinated to learn about new things. It's good to see you again, by the way. So the thing is that you're merging together the word cult and intentional community. Now, I think that you said your intentional communities are designed not to be cults, and you said that the cult is something that, right, isn't necessarily scientifically proven or things like that. Um,
Right.
but a lot of people would actually call most intentional communities cults, right? Kind of
Oh,
like
I
a
know.
communist setting. So,
Right.
yeah. And
The reason, the
go
reason
ahead.
what differentiates what differentiates this from that is that there's no central ideology, there's no central belief, there are no central practices, there are no central ritual. This is essentially supposed to operate like an Airbnb or a cross between an Airbnb and a Motel 6 or a Holiday Inn or a Hilton, in the sense that it's a, go ahead, yeah, it's not, it's delineated from having a central methodology that would qualify us as a cult. It's more along the lines of the facilitation of the resources and the access to the resources such as housing, food, etc., without the central ideology, because that's where it gets culty, and that's where people start wearing the same clothes and saying the same chants and then drinking the same fucking drinks, and that's exactly what we're trying to stay away from.
You know, sometimes it's ideology, but there's also the idea of something called cult of personality. And the thing is that sometimes, right, like it could be ideology, but sometimes the ideology is that this person is irrefutable. This person is perfect, or this person should not be bothered, or that definitely happens as well. You get what I'm saying? So it isn't always necessarily ideology, and the ideology is often re. Actually, one thing that I say as an anarchist is that who cares about the rules, because the rules are twisted to punish the weak and are broken to fit the strong. So ideology. I've never been like a big I never really took it that seriously, because the people who say the ideology, yeah, sure, okay, until it's them. The rules are for me, not the rules are for fee, not for me. You know the deal. So, what's the
Right.
difference between, right, the cult formation of personality versus the cult of the ideology, or is there a difference?
I would say that they build on each other. They are the two sides of the same coin. So it's not that they're different; it's that they reflect each other, like a spectrum or a prism. Um, the and especially because I do want to keep delineating what I'm these communities from the traditional communities that people have in their mind, is that these communities would be owned by an umbrella corporation, whether that corporation is a not-for-profit, a non-profit, or a for-profit, but just gives 100% of its profits back to these communities. I haven't been able to determine to ascertain the legal structure for that yet, but once I do, that's what we're going for, because we don't want the cult of the person, or the personal cult, and the collective cult that would emerge, or that intrinsically is deemed to be in these circles, to emerge. Because when I came out here to Colorado to start developing intentional communities, I found two things that were the problem. One was central financing. If there's central financing, meaning one or two people that's financing everything, and everybody's in good faith coming to work and do the work to build the community, inevitably there comes a situation where the people doing the work want to do something, and the people doing the money stuff want to do something else, and there's a collision right there. So that's why I came up with the idea to crowdfund or decentralize the funding process through crowdfunding, because it diffuses one, two, three, or however many people being responsible for the financial aspect, and it alleviates everybody to be able to do equal participation in other ways. And then the other side of it was this idea of a central ideology, even if it was just cannabis, a love of cannabis, and appreciation for nature. I want this to be delineated from cult type communities. I want this to be delineated from expensive timeshare type of get ups. And there was one more delineation that I wanted. Oh, from it being like a hippie fucking commune. It's maybe not culty, but it's hippie. It's a hippie. It's a bunch of pot smoking tree huggers. I want it delineated from all that. This is supposed to be just like a rest stop. You go from state to state, you have these rest stops, and they are kept up by the county, but there's no central um, dictation that goes on for these rest stops. There's no on-site anybody. And so our idea is to augment that concept and to apply, automated automated food growth. So automated aquaponics and hydroponics facilities. Um,
Okay, wait. So I did have
the
another question. Yeah. So the thing
Go
is
ahead,
that
yeah, please.
you explained that you were developing an app, something like that, right? Now, there's already a
Yes.
lot of apps that exist. Some apps to create social media constructs, some apps to, right, maybe manage crops and stuff like that. Um, are you? Maybe you guys want to reinvent the wheel for privacy reasons or for security reasons? Not really sure, but what is your app like building on other apps, or is your app kind of like a brand new one? And is it open source? What's this app all about?
I'm not a tech guy, but I would like if the app was the best of all the apps that we're accustomed to, the best of TikTok, without the stagnation and the suppression and the censorship. Uh, the best of Facebook, the best of YouTube, the best of, I don't know if that's capable at this time to do that. But what differentiates this app from other apps, or what makes this app important, is that 100% of its profits go to the facilitation of these communities. So if you take TikTok, for example, they made $120 billion just in 2023. And if you were to put that $120 billion into the development, the acquisition, the development, and the maintenance of these communities, you will see that by large, we possess the amount, we've already known this, but we possess the money that it takes to house people who are unhoused. But we are not doing that because all of the companies that are doing anything are for profit. So it's not really anything for us to be the app, to own the app, and to have the profits diffused amongst the population of people who use the app, the people who hold accounts with the app. And so the app is just the only reason for the app is a revenue stream for the communities, so that nobody has to shoulder the weight of paying for the fees. It's meant to at first eliminate the red tape that comes with removing ourselves from these systems and going into a more
Okay, so quick
autonomous,
question. Yeah.
independent state.
So
Say
let's
again?
suppose that you and me joined one of these communities, right? Yeah.
Right.
Just for example, let's say the community is you and me, right? Yeah. Someone
Yeah.
someone from somewhere else, right? We're not sure exactly where, but they donated money into our organization, right? Let's say there's
Hmm.
two of us, right? And you have an idea what you want to do with the money. We're both workers. Neither of us is the money guy but you have something you want to do, and I have something I want to do. How are we going to resolve this?
Ideally, the app itself would be broken into two parts. So, not the app, but the membership fee for the app, which is um, what enables us to know who has access to the resources or not. So when we go to make decisions, largely these decisions will be about infrastructure. They won't be, not even largely, they will never be about anybody's rights or anything like that. So it's not something as pressing as you being able to exercise your rights or somebody violating your body or anything like that. Largely the votes will have to do, or the discussion will have to do with infrastructure. But the app also doubles as an organizing mechanism. So let's just say it's not two of us because there's an app and hopefully there's more than just us on it. But we got, a couple, we'll just say a couple people on there. And the app is meant to organize how we decide things. The app is where we would cast votes for infrastructure. So if we got the library, we've already decided this is where the library is going to go. Everybody agrees we're going to put the library here. Some people want the library to be brown. Some people want it to be pink. Some people want it to be yellow. Some people, so on and so forth. That's where the app is where we would consolidate those things based on the input given by the individuals. And if we're talking about spending money, that also is something that is sent through the app. It's sent through like data analysis algorithm type programs that can say, okay, you have this much money, you've already done this much paperwork on this property, but you have this much money and you've already situated this much paperwork on this property. So we would have an algorithm that would tell us this is the more logical property, and then it would bullet point why this is the most
Yeah.
logical property.
How much fundraising have you done in over the years?
I've fundraised over the years a substantial amount. I personally have never raised more than a couple $100, but one single specific time when Abby Martin got a hold of our work, we were able to raise. I was there and I helped with the spirit of raising $37,000. And that's about how much I found out it would cost to make a shitty app, between $30,000 and $300,000 to make an app. And somewhere in between there, the more you pay, the better the app is.
Depends, yeah. But
Right.
that actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that story exactly, because that actually, once again, I do like your work. I do like your theories and
Thank you.
philosophy. But really, a lot of the activism and the funding of the activism comes from celebrities, comes from people that are, look, there's different kinds of customers. You have your casual customer and your hardcore customer. You know what I mean? And the casual customers are usually the most profitable. And the fact of the matter is that, look, you look like an activist. I don't look like an activist. And I'm right, just because, right, yeah, this country has most people can't name an Asian American activist or musician or scientist. I'm extremely bitter about that. And in fact, right, shout out to Abby Martin's work, but the fact of the matter is that right now, right, are you a supporter of the anti-war movement?
Say it again.
You are. Are you a supporter of the anti-war movement?
Anti-war?
Yeah.
Yes, I thought you said anti-woke. I was like, no, I'm not a part of that movement. But yeah,
Abby
but I'm always anti-war, anti-conflict. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you name one war victim?
War victim?
Yeah. We say their name, Khalif Browder. We say their name, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan Neely, say their name. But if you're a war victim, your name means shit. You are
Right.
nothing compared to Jill Steiner. And I thank Abby Martin for her help. I thank her, but her celebrity, she worth something. As a war victim, I'm worth nothing. So right there, I hear, right? I'm you know what, look, I'm happy for you, man. Right? Yeah. I'm being evicted from my spot right now because racism against Asian Americans doesn't matter. So, you know what? Like Abby Barn, that's cool, man. By hanging with someone who looks like you, she's gonna get more props than someone who looks like me. So look, that's not your fault, man. It's not your fault at all. But some people get funded, some people don't.
Right.
Look, I know you said
that's
you got 100. I got a couple hundred here and there too. You know what I mean? But I'm so sick of this shit. I'm so sick of it. And honestly, I don't really the fact of the matter is that people love fake food, they like fake boobs, they like fake activism. And say their name, remember their name, not if you're a war victim. So honestly, I'm actually really it's not your fault, but I'm extremely frustrated about what's going on. That's why I'm acting.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand. And it gets very cliche on
not
gets very cliche on him.
I'm just dismissive of fucking American society in general, and I'm dismissive of, look, I make my living by begging on the train, because you know what, like, if you're not a threat, if you're someone who, who's helpless, they like you. But don't you mouth off about the things you suffer from. You're not allowed to suffer, or you're not allowed to talk about your problems. You fit what I want you to be, or you shut the fuck up and you step the fuck back and you get back in your place. So I appreciate the intentional, I've been part of the community, and a lot of, I like what you said about the hippies and stuff, but really the people that are alternate communities, hippies are a lot of, right? They tend to go towards intentional communities. Normies, they fit in. But even within the hippie and progressive community, their lack of regard for war victims and for Asian Americans, fuck them all. That's how I feel. So, once again, you've been always cool with me. Yeah, you've always been cool, and I respect you and your work.
Right.
But as for the rest of it, I have no fucking faith in getting fucking any fucking penny of fucking Eddie or even just the community in general. And I'm actually writing for international bodies talking about the anti-woman of this country and how it cannot be trusted. So being a Korean American, right? You want to have Korean Americans were peaceful. We weren't causing problems, but someone came to our land and decided your shit is ours. We want your women to do what we say, right? You are a cuck. You are a nothing. You are a nobody. People starving in Ethiopia, we're going to sing for. But no one's going to sing for you. So the entire right, and I respect that. You want to set your own sovereign kind of like separate community. But what are you going to do when people invade your stuff? What are you going to do when they want to take what you have? How are you going to protect yourself? I'm sorry to
One
come
of
at
the
you from the
things
back
about these
there.
communities, it acts as no, you're okay. Bro, listen to me. I'm an activist. I'm a solutions focused activist, and we have to be able to air our real grievances out. We have to be able to really speak our mind and be able to say what's important because we don't do that enough. And I'm not going to sit here and take it personally. I know I agree with everything you're saying. And on top of that, I couldn't name, even though I'm sure I have names in my head of war victims. I don't, it should be more prominent, and that's what that's what you're talking about. It should be much more prominent, but the echo is always one specific conversation in the United States, and so I realized that, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so weird for me too because I do have people who I look up to who have fallen, and I don't know this man's name, but he was a content creator on TikTok. I found out about him literally 3 days after he passed away. But his whole content was surrounding that he was going to be planting seeds every day during the occupation, during the conflict, and he was doing that when he got unalived. I'm not on TikTok anymore. When he got killed. Um, so I wish I could remember his name because I feature him on my website and everything because that and I think that's part of the problem too. I think that a lot of people, when it comes to saying their name, especially in the United States, it's because it's closer to home. It's not something that and I would argue too that the amount of casualties that happen per day is way more than the hyper focused incidences that we get focused in on in the United States.
Bro,
Because
I can tell you what it is. I can tell you what it is. The blacks are the largest minority population in the United States, the second largest of the disabilities. And by being number one, right, the thing is that y'all have political power. And I'm not saying that blacks
ish,
are, yeah, you do. And, right, you have some privileges because of that. And I'm not right. And people don't want to believe, right? They don't want to believe that Asian Americans are victims. And it's easy to present race as a picture of black and whites. But, I like to say God loves the hot stuff and the cold stuff, and the stuff in the middle is the stuff he spits out, the reject shit. And that's me in this life. Not black enough to matter, not white enough for anybody to give a shit. So I do have some people supporting myself, like Susan Bush-Lachaki. Thanks again for your help. Yeah, and yourself, by the way. But it's in this society and the anti-war movement itself, and Abby Martin and Tulsi Gabbard and that whole fucking shit. You are not learning from war victims who have had their stuff taken and stolen. You've not learned from people like Josh Haley, who's the Inuit, right? Yeah, indigenous man from Green Party Alaska, who was elected to the government within Kotzebue, Alaska, and was kicked out by the Green Party, and has still, and despite the insults and people who have been victims of war, the Green Party itself does not give a single shit. And our issues are not being really projected by people in the community because there's a lot of other people, and blacks are victimizing other blacks as well. There's a lot of people that got to be somebody, and Malcolm X talked about it. So then, right, once again, setting up and having your own farm and stuff, when they can rob and steal from you and there's no consequences for the other side, like happens to Asian Americans, go ahead and throw your shit. Good luck, you know what I mean? It's just going to get robbed and stolen, and then you're not going to get help. So go ahead. I don't really. I'm sorry to be a hater, but I wish you the best, but I don't really think that's a solution for myself. So I'm gonna keep fighting within this system here, but I wish you the best of luck. You get to be acknowledged as a human being. You get to get help from Abby Martin. You know, what I mean, you, not me. All right, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault at all. Yeah, you haven't been blackballed by the gatekeepers for daring to fucking bring up the issue of the nameless war victims who they're stealing from right now. And it's happening to the disabled as well. You see any disabilities activism? Fuck them. Fuck Abby. I know she helped you. Yeah, I'm a victim. I'm sorry to say, her and all her
now
fucking. fucking
She didn't
not,
help us so much as that she did a story on some of the work we did. She didn't help us because that would it,
I don't.
like she didn't help us.
She's not to blame. It's not her fault. It's American society. She's what they want, a pretty face. She's what they want, not a fucking actual war victim. They don't want authenticity. They want someone who will repeat their own fucking biases back to them. They want someone who looks and sounds of what they expect, not like me. I'm fighting every country
Oh, for sure.
telling them how fucking hopeless it is to have peace with the United States because their future is my future. Asia, Korea, Japan, China, Africa too as well. Even white people, right? Ukrainians. I just had a Ukrainian, do this song on my show where I did the higher education discussion panel. They don't care about Ukrainians or Russians either. The anti-war movement doesn't give a fuck about you because the only way towards justice is power. The only thing that can guarantee you being treated fairly is your ability to have the ability to fight back. So eating the food, I'd rather die for justice. I'm so sick of this shit. I'm sorry,
Oh
man.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, don't be apologizing. That's something we don't need to do because the problem is that people they're afraid to have the hard conversations. I'm not. I don't have. I don't. That's not a part of my makeup. Conversing is the least we can do and come up and discussing. And even if it gets hot and heated, bro, I'm with you. Like this ain't.
But how can we make, right? I don't know if you could reach out to Abby or any. Listen, I'm not mad at elite people. I'm not mad at rich people or pretty people being part of the movement. That's completely fine. And your help could be a lot of help, Abby. But don't fucking replace us. Fuck you. You want to replace us? Are you fucking crazy? Fuck you, for real. I swear to God, man. Fucking anti-war fucking asshole. We live in your glory days from the 60s and 70s. You fucking piece of shit. You know what I've been through in this lifetime? You have no fucking idea. Because you've erased our suffering like it never existed. Fuck you. Things are going downhill, bro. I'm about to be evicted out of this spot. You know why? Because I've never suffered in this lifetime. Fuck this whole fucking world. Yeah? I'm keep doing what the fuck I do, though. So I might actually blow up because by the time I'm a homeless fucking activist, still fucking fighting for the wrongfully incarcerated Reverend Keith Gatz, Nolan Farrell, right? Vincent Moto, right? I could name the names of the people I've helped. Who the fuck has Abby Martin helped? Name one fucking name. Name one fucking name. Anybody. Sabby Sabs, Jimmy Dore, fuck all of them. Name one person they're helping. They sit and they commentate on fucking trending topics. Fuck you. That's American society. And that's who they want, and that's what they're fucking get. And the rest of the world, you can't trust none of this shit. You want to grow your own crops? Yeah, guess what? Look at what happened to Korea. Dying of fucking... all your shit's going to be robbed and taken. You must learn to defend yourself. That's my opinion. What are you guys going to do for self-defense to make sure that when people violate your shit or steal your shit that you can defend yourselves?
Part of it, excuse me, is that what I'm proposing for intentional communities is really a band-aid for houselessness. It is not meant to be a replacement system for this sick system. It is, but because it's a transitional, it's built for transition. Then, as this system fades, we have more autonomy to engage. Already having this infrastructure set up. So my idea we would have self-defense courses taught right on the property, such as martial arts and shooting, etc. Excuse me, it's 4:20 somewhere.
Look, I understand that, right? But the problem is, right, sometimes your defense has to be physical, but sometimes your defense has to be political. And the fact of the matter is that we are political victims, not physical. We're physical victims too. But the reason why we are victimized over and over is because we are political victims, which is not acknowledged. So the martial arts and shit, you know what I mean? Then they just bag you up for saying that, right? Yeah, they say that you're a violent person. And then they shoot you.
Well, hand in hand with that is, and I call these workshops. So whether it's automotive, whether it's martial arts, whether it's shooting, um, or whether it's information processing and education on how to assimilate information and how to process it properly. Um, that is also a part of this. Um, excuse me, I'm still coughing, but that's a huge part of this because that's the meat. That's what we're actually doing all this for, is to put ourselves in a position to be able to have the time, energy, and support to really start formulating solidarity.
You said your company would own and maybe manage, right, some of these different organizations and stuff. Like they would own the organizations. Um, so is that protected by Colorado law, by federal law? Are you guys incorporating or something like that? Not for profit. What's your
I honestly, the biggest part of my goals right now, the work that I'm doing, is finding out what the proper legal structure is. It will probably encompass all of it. It will probably have a trust that the property or the certain mechanisms of the properties are in. And then maybe in that trust will be or maybe that trust will be held by a co-op, um, or a not a nonprofit or a not-for-profit, but even possibly a for-profit, but where the articles of incorporation detail, and the bylaws detail that after overhead, the profits would go to funding this infrastructure development, and it should be more described as that, as instead of an intentional community, it should be described as intentional infrastructure development. So it does kind of contextualize that, yes, in the beginning, it probably won't be so community. This particular iteration of intentional communities, it won't be hyper focused on community at first. It would be hyper focused on intentional infrastructure that will become the community. Because as you stated, there are many situations that we need to uh, have an awareness of, and there are unique challenges that go with this specific
okay?
avenue, and we want to be able to meet those challenges.
I have another question. Um, do you have any experience living in intentional communities, or have you ever designed intentional communities before?
Lived in, yes. Designed, not from an architectural standpoint, but from a scientific analysis standpoint, like things being equidistant, so the communities being circular, so that every part of the exterior of the community is equidistant to the actual center of the community, which is where the community center would be.
Okay, that's interesting. So, as in terms of what's your experience living with those intentional communities?
Say that one more time.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your experience with intentional communities?
Oh yeah, best time of my life. Literally, the intentional community I was in, it wasn't culty, but it was being funded by specific people, and there became, and it wasn't even disagreements with how we should interact. It was disagreements with how we should interact with the government. Some of us were like, "Nah, let's not get none of those permits," and some of us were like, "Well, we got to get permits, or otherwise they'll keep harassing us." And so that's where our static and friction came in, is dealing with the state. But my time in intentional communities defines most of my activism. It is the most profound, aside from my children being born, and aside from the work that we did in Houston during Hurricane Harvey, it is the most profound, and especially the area I'm in, it's the most provocative time I've ever had in my life. I've
So,
never
have
felt
you?
more liberated or free.
So, how many different intentional communities have you been a part of?
Uh, two, two physically, three in spirit. So two of them. One of them was called 360 Freedom. I used to have a Facebook page before it was hacked that had all this on there. I have a YouTube that has some of this on there, and I'll probably be bringing those on over to Evolving Seeds YouTube. I didn't even think about that. It was 360 Freedom, and the other one was Kite Tree, which was started by humanitarians. And then the one I say in spirit was reconnect, which was dedicated to people who were on substances being able to reconnect to themselves and disconnect from those substances and from the harmful situations that caused them to sink into that lifestyle. But on the average day when I was in intentional communities, literally, it was a hyper focus on whatever we were doing today. It was a very beautiful way to stay present, which is something that we in this society have a hard time doing. You usually dwelling about something that happened in the past or dwelling on a worry that we have in the future. We're very rarely present, and I found that I lived in the present when I was out there. A lot of camaraderie, even amongst people who don't agree, people who have no idea that, and I'm talking about advocates of the system, people that we can say are pretty harmful with their ideology. They were very open out when they met us from intentional communities because they realized that we weren't a group of hippies and we weren't a group of drug makers. And we were actually out there to develop communities that were available and decentralized.
Okay, so a lot of the intentional communities that I've kind of like seen around, right, they're usually more like agricultural type stuff. There's some rare instances of urban type arrangements. They're usually people working. I don't think it's really, because the community is dealing with a lot of other people like from other communities and stuff, right? So how much of the intentional community is this really, right? So, do you think is this model also going to potentially run in urban environments, or is this really kind of like more of an agriculture type thing?
No, it's great that you asked that. There's so many components to this thing. Sometimes I forget them without being asked. So the overarching company I call UniStrike, which would be the nonprofit or the not-for-profit or the for-profit, but the profits are going. That company I call UniStrike because uni is like unicycle one and strike one strike. And this was the General Strike US, which if you guys haven't signed your strike card, please go to the generalstrikeus.com. It's a decentralized group of activists from a very wide spectrum of activism and stances that have come together. They are pushing for 3% of the population, which is 11 million people in the United States, to sign a strike card, which just all it does is show solidarity that people are interested in talking about, move transitioning out of the system. But largely people started asking them, well, what are you going to do? What are we going to do when we strike? And they start firing people and people start losing their jobs. And that's where some of the organizers from the General Strike came to me because they knew about it, that I have a hyper focus on intentional communities. And they were like, what do you have for people, 11 million people going on a general strike? And that's where I came up with this idea. So the idea is two-part. Well, there's a couple part, but two-part in the sense of what the UniStrike deals with. UniStrike deals with the property assets. So that means any assets, any resources that like sea-doos, boats, the pods themselves, the land, any transportation system that we might have in between the communities, which I call COCO, community to community transport. That would all be under UniStrike. But also UniStrike would use those very same resources, a portion of them anyway, to develop businesses that are eco-friendly and have a far more ethical position in capitalism to compete with the exploitative, predative, harmful, overly harmful businesses that we have now, which gives our community members, the people who live in the community, the ability to still, if they choose to, work, work to be able to have funds, and they're not just at the whims or at the behest of some intercommunal currency. But to answer your question, part of it is rural, and part of it is inner city. So we would develop communities that are rural so that we can start to detach ourselves from these systems and have a footing that isn't completely and solely dependent on these systems. And then we would also develop and acquire properties that are in the city so that we have essentially how the United States does their bases. They have bases all over the U.S., which is their main home front, but all over the world they have bases, and these bases aren't, military bases, but our bases would be apartment complexes where the rent is $600 a month, and now instead the rent is $140 a month because
Okay.
we determine the cost.
Okay, so I do actually have another question. The thing is that I'm thanks again for being very patient with me. Yeah, I just got off of ranting about Tulsi, so I've been very going through an emotional time. The thing is that okay, so you were talking about I'm trying to see how we can work together, right? Like I'm thinking about the things you're saying. And if you take a look at like my activism, like I work with people that have been wrongfully incarcerated, people with disabilities, war victims, stuff like that, right? Now the
Right.
thing is, a lot of times these people, like such as with disabilities, right? Like there's something called accessible pedestrian signals, and right when people are crossing a road, they have a button they can push, right, and it'll help them cross the road. So the thing is that your intentional communities may be interfacing with things that the government provides still, right, like roads and stuff like that, right? Now your intentional community may not actually have the funds to, right, to bring out right things like what is it? Once again, accessible pedestrian signals, co-navigator programs, people that are deaf blind, people in that community. Once again, if there's like maybe 5, 10, maybe even 20 people, right? Are they willing to learn Braille, sign language, right? Other accommodating features, or so the thing is that a lot of communities get left behind, and the communities that I work with often need more, right? People that have been wrongfully imprisoned, they are psychologically broken, scarred, dealing with a lot of issues, may need support that very potentially these communities cannot provide. So I'm trying to think about how our things can cross over, and I'm really struggling. Does that make sense to you?
It does. The only thing I would say is I have because we are offering the best solution with what we have. We're not offering an end all be all solution, but what you did bring up a very good point, especially with the ableism. I would argue that a lot of our facilities would be conducive because I'm not the one doing this. This is not my company is evolvingseeds.com. This is something I'm postulating that we all develop and we all have a say in how it develops. So a lot of what I'm saying is just the logical answer. It may not be the end result correct answer that
There's
people
so
will
many
decide.
disabilities though. You got like hemophiliacs who bleed easy. You got people that are deaf blind. You got people with osteoimperfecta that have fragile bones. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many. You really right. There's no way any community can be really geared to really appropriately take care of all the disabilities. When someone new comes in, you got to kind of make an adjustment, and the whole community's got to decide right at what level they're ready to make compromises for themselves. Right? We could have all these ideals, these right, affirmations, these beliefs about where we want to go. Right? We have our imagined selves and our real selves, and when it starts to become inconvenient, we're going to see what really happens. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
And
know.
what
Oh,
it's
I
really to.
know. And like I said, this isn't an end all be all. I would say that these because when I was talking about the analysis for the properties and analysis for the data and the inventory for the resources, that that will have aspects in it because again, this is being done by activists too. It will have, like you said, we're not going to be able to satisfy every need, but we will be able to have Braille, and that doesn't mean that everybody has to learn Braille. It just means that there has to be facilities, infrastructure has to be geared toward that. Not necessarily the members. The members have to be prepped mentally and have to understand their proximity to it, but with regard to infrastructure, technology is gradually and rapidly alleviating a lot of the disparities that we see with an ableist society. We have the
And one thing
ability
that
to
may
have.
happen, right? One thing that may happen is that there may be a group of blind people that want to set up an intentional community. So within your app or your
Oh yeah.
design, yeah, you get what I'm saying. Like if blind people, right, rather than push their blindness or right or dealing with that onto a community that's not really blind, right? Why not live with other blind people who might be able to right better understand, or maybe not, right? But how much customization is possible within your intentional communities?
That's actually a beautiful question, and it's designed because, again, when I say two-parter, there's so many more aspects. This is designed to have on-site members, and it's also designed to host what I call pod share members, which are people who live wherever they live. They're doctor, lawyer, nurse, whoever the fuck. They're perfectly fine in capitalism, or at least maybe hopefully they're interested in participating in something that's different. But let's just, for the sake of argument, say that they're really not. They can still pay the same membership fee that everybody else pays and have open access to the communities to be able to facilitate and go to them anytime. So if you're an on-site member, there is a large amount of customization that you can do. If you're a pod share member, it's very minimum. Just like if you go to if you rent a house from somebody, it's expected that you're going to customize it. But if you go to a hotel room or a Airbnb, they're not looking for you to customize it. So that's why earlier I said it would operate sort of like the cross between an Airbnb and a Motel 6 or like a Holiday Inn or a Hilton, a hotel essentially, is that if you're an on-site member, you get pretty much a autonomous customization on your place of dwelling and its general surrounding area. If you're a pod share member, someone who lives somewhere else and just pays the membership, then you have pretty much about the same customization abilities as a hotel, in that you can come in and put your shit in there and put your shit down. But if you want to change the color of the walls inside, you won't be able to do that. If you want to change the colors of the walls outside, you can't do that. But you could do that if you're an on-site member. And on top of that, you get everybody in these communities gets a community vote and they get a corporate vote. They get a vote that what happens in the community, and they get a vote of what happens in the corporation that affects them. I call it a proximity voting system, and it gets a little bit more detailed than that. But essentially, that's how it works. Because even the pod share members have a vote; it's just a percentage of a vote. So someone who is only coming temporary would have to convince 10 other temporaries to have one vote against the vote for people who live there full time. So it'll take 20 of us to equal two of them. You understand what I'm saying? It balances out the ability for influence. Like, if you're not coming here all the time, if you're not on site all the time, and you're not conducive to the evolution, not conducive, if you're not participating actively day to day in the evolution of the community, then your proximity drops. And of course, this needs to be hashed out by the people who are going to be developing these communities. I'm just a data processor. I'm postulating all this information, and when people who are genuine like yourself, because I've talked to some other people who are not, and they don't offer questions that yield me to have to come up with, just come up with ideas, but come up with possibilities. Because again, it's not going to be me, it's not going to be you. We could be the founders, and we're still not going to be the ones who determine totally how this is going to operate. I think
Yeah.
largely logic will do that, and some parts of artificial intelligence, depending on maybe the community, the people who are developing this with us. Because essentially, after this takes off just a little bit, the people who are founding it just become regular members of the communities. We don't have some grand, because it's decentralized. We don't carry the power or the weight of being a founder, other than maybe bragging rights. But on paper, we don't have any more weight than anybody else.
I wish you the best with that. Yeah, I'm kind of like wrapped into the society as it is now, regular American society. I've been part of intentional groups before, and they weren't all good, weren't all bad, but overall, I feel, you've probably experienced it too, right? Nothing's perfect, right? And every group has their
Right.
issues. Um, a
But
lot
hold
of
on, but this is not a group. That's the whole thing. The community itself doesn't function as the traditional idea, to where all of us group together and we do this thing, and all of us group together and we do that thing. This is actually supposed to be very decentralized, in that the pods act as a it's basically a large scale Airbnb. So someone who possibly is being evicted can come to these communities, and where they might be staying at a hotel or anything else, for $20 a month, $30 a month, depending on what the people who facilitate this fully decide, can actually have access to housing, a roof over their head, and it be long term or short term, with no exploitative types of mechanisms. So you have to have a year lease, or you have to do that. No, you can come and go as you please. And for the example of, excuse me, we have to do something. And for me, this isn't about. It's much less about doing a community thing as it is having a foot at the table, or a spot at the corporate table that we're being priced out of. Zillow's buying all the houses. Um, all these different types of corporations are buying out our ability to even interact with this society as it has normally and commonly been engaged with. We're being priced out of our homes. So my idea is to crowdfund a place where they can't evict us, essentially.
Interesting. Okay.
Without having that, again, the central ownership, the central ideology, that collectivism mentality. It's not that we wouldn't have it wouldn't be able to be engaged in that way, but it wouldn't be the focus. Meaning, these communities would also host RV parks, people who are traveling RVs. We would also host people who aren't PodShare members and aren't on site full-time members, but are just passing through, and they realize, oh my God, we were going to get a hotel at the fucking Motel 6, and it was going to be $80 for the night, and we can come here and literally pay up a membership for 3 months with the same amount of money. It's a no-brainer. It doesn't come with that, oh, welcome to our community. Well, here's your T-shirt, and here's your funny hat, and here's the hymns and the things that we chant together. It's none of that. It's more like like I said, an Airbnb that is funded by the people who utilize it. That's all. It has no central organization aside from perpetuating the communities. Aside from that, nobody is obligated to participate in any which way that would deem it one thing. You understand what I'm saying?
There's a very few amount of people, actually, to tell the truth. I used to hang out with these millionaires that were actually all into like self-sustainability and stuff like that, and like living off the grid and that type of thing. There's a lot of people that are into that. But to tell you the truth, a lot of my activism is kind of centered on, for example, like for the wrongfully incarcerated, the people that I've worked with, and they have a lot of problems. You know what I mean? Like they've been through a lot of traumatic experience. So I don't really know how they work with these intentional communities. They might not, but there's a lot of issues there. But
the idea is,
for example, right, when I work with my partners, I might try to say, you know what, like we're trying to, in every state house, right, because there's state law and there's federal law, and we're trying to get it in a compensation package for people that have been wrongfully incarcerated. Or I might say for the people with disabilities, we're trying to get accessible pedestrian signals or co-navigator program for the deaf blind, or for people with war victims, we're trying to get our people included in events, right, like Rage Against the War Machine or these other anti-war protests where we are excluded. All right, and these things, right, these plannings, these intentional communities are often, people with disabilities. They might be welcome there, but they're not really there. Like, it's really mostly for people that are. It's for a certain amount of rejects, right? People that have been like left society, but I've been part of those things, right? And other things don't really. So I'm not really sure how our actions can really work together, because, like, you know what I mean? Like, usually with my interstate allies, that's what I work on. I also am working on, just so you know, I have access to, I have partners in Los Angeles. I'm in New York City, the largest market in the nation. So people in Chicago, Pennsylvania. And also I'm looking to get my stuff aired on cable access TV. So having a partner in Colorado, I got someone in Las Vegas, right? It would be cool to get our stuff pushed out there. And if we have a variety of programming, right? Like, honestly, if you're doing more of the, and I don't know if it's always agriculture. It sounds like some of the other stuff, like the Airbnb, it might be a mixture, right? There might be urban or semi-urban type of environments of this cooperation living. And if you want to provide maybe a separate show on there, or maybe that's regular, I would be interested. But it sounds like, a lot of people have already been trying to do this for several years now, and a lot of people don't provide content on a regular basis, right? That's not really what they're doing. So,
right.
I'm trying to see like how we can work together, but I'm trying to find.
Well,
Go
ideally
ahead.
these the way the community would be designed, it would, like I was saying earlier, be cylindrical, so that not cylindrical, excuse me, circular, so that everything is equidistant, but it would yield us the ability to have rings. So it'd be nice if theoretically people who are reconnecting to society, coming out of prison, coming out of jail, coming off substance abuse, would have specific areas of the community that they come in. So they come in here, and this is where they cohabitate, and they are able to detox from society, or detox from jail life, or detox from prison to a certain extent. Obviously, it won't be 100%, but to a certain extent, to where they are now in a position they want to move forward and do other things. They can have access to the rest of the community at that point, or we have other methods, meaning we have on-site, not therapy, like, therapy, which usually largely in the United States is just get back to work. Um, we would have like on-site therapy, on-site mental health help, and then a variety of workshops that are geared towards teaching people the relevant information and skills that have to do with how we even got in this position in the first place. And that's just one way. But on another note, I want to ask, I'm pretty sure you're not on there yet. Have you heard of the One Great Work Network?
One Great Network? No, what is that?
The One Great Work Network is a network founded by Mark Passio, an independent researcher, anarchist, and all around badass, who
Okay.
facilitated the knowledge for a lot of information. I'm going to give you that information when you get done, because we don't have on. Evolving Seeds features the One Great Network, and like largely most of its activists on our platform. And on the One Great Work Network platform, if you go onto the creators side and you scroll down, you'll see Evolving Seeds on there. So we're creating this cross collaboration, a web of activism and solidarity with not just activism, but anarchist activists specifically. And like you were talking about earlier, there is no Asian American representation on there. We have women, we have elderly people, we have, I think, trans community, LGBTQI community featured here, but I don't think that we have any Asian Americans or anybody from that diaspora. So it would be great. And you're already in line with the work that we do on the website. It's all, well, not all, because on my end we do a lot of other stuff, but for most people on the One Great Work Network, it's content creation. There's a lot of collaboration with the fellas in there. And yeah, I think that we could use you. Like, we need you.
Maybe one of these days we'll set it
Um,
up. I'm actually checking out the One Great Network site right
oh
now.
yeah,
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 that's
man. Thank you.
no problem. Yeah, like I want the viewers to see it, right? So maybe I will at some point set up something with maybe some other members of the group. Right now I'm kind of
Oh
knee
yeah,
deep
man.
right now, but there was some other guy who had been
And
on your show. Somehow
it
this lady
just
looks maybe she just looks like someone else. Go ahead. Yeah.
it what it does too is it helps, because then somebody who is going through the One Great Work Network, they might not want to hear from a black guy. They might not want to hear it from a woman. They might not want to hear it from a white guy. They might want to hear what we are all saying, but from an Asian American, because they might happen to be Asian American. You know what I'm saying? Like,
They
that's
should be
it's not.
quite a variety, right? Sometimes they should listen to us individually, and sometimes they should listen to us as a group. So, but that's up to their
And
choice. But it's
and
I'm
we
not.
haven't we
Yeah.
go ahead. We don't on the I haven't put anything on the One Great Work Network since I got on there. He has like Mark has a requirement that you put up a picture and your donation information. Those were like the two things that he
I think
required me, and it was,
this Corey guy, isn't he on your show? He's kind of part of Evolve.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I've
He's
seen him
not,
before.
and that's how this works. He's not part of Evolving Seeds. We just collaborate so intimately that you can't tell the difference. And that's why I put you up on this, because you don't have to actively do anything. I know you're stretched thin. We as activists are stretched thin with our focus and our attention. You don't have to update anything on here if you don't want to. So long as you're doing the work, and maybe that's just me, I have not put anything up on the One Great Work Network as far as any content, because I don't even know how, and my fucking computer crashed. But Mark Passio, the founder of the One Great Network, was gracious enough to spend 3 hours with me from 1 o'clock till like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, fixing my computer for it to be able to do it. And it worked for a long time. And then, of course, I don't know how to maintain my computer. So it fell back into not being able to do certain things. But literally, you don't have to put any content up there. It's just another way for people to come in contact with your content and
Okay,
to show that people are doing this work.
appreciate that. Okay, we'll talk more about that in a moment.
Yeah.
I'm gonna address this one thing from a Smurf account. Shout out to Smurf account, right? Yeah. Now, it says if they're recruiting you, just hold your own events. Who cares about Rage Against the War Machine? I'm gonna tell you what the deal is, right? Yeah, it is alive. Yeah, it's live. What's up, Corey? Good to see you. Yeah. The fact of the matter is that Martin Luther King himself said, you know, it's a cruel jest to tell a man without boots to lift himself by his own bootstraps. The fact of the matter is that now, right, the fact is that I do have right shoes and stuff, so I'm not like completely like, you know, there's people who moved destitute in other countries, but the fact of the matter is that my activism has to compete against people that are getting hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of dollars. Once again, at the top of the program, we saw Evolving Seed saying that he himself, right, and he's been active for a long time, he'll get 100, 200, couple dollars here and there. You know what I mean? I got some significant, you know, Corey's one of the people that's helped me, right? Yeah, Susan, right? Yeah. Shout out to them. But you know, we take a look at the donations that Rage Against the War Machine gets. People's Party, $30,000 a month, $40,000 a month, and then people like me.
Oh, it's abysmal.
You know, just so you know, right now, me and Corey Edens are actually trying to do some kind of student activism, right? And the thing is that meanwhile, while I'm doing higher education panel discussions for free, right, with you know, candidates, mayoral candidates, right, presidential candidates, stuff like that, right, spending my own time, right, while I'm begging on the train. The fact of the matter is they're paying student activists, right, $1,200, right, for 3 or 4 hours a week, right, during the semester to hang out and have fun. And, you know, they're doing this for thousands of students. And we cannot compete, right? Yeah. Just hold your own events, right? Why don't you just tell the people that are starving in the streets, right? Yeah. Just eat your own fingers, right? Fuck it, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you'll survive. We cannot We cannot win, and the narrative gets twisted to serve someone else's interest. Not the war victims, but rather those, right, people like Medea Benjamin, people like, you know, start doing all I am doing, right? Yeah. But the fact of the matter is that we cannot compete. We cannot get our message listened to. We cannot get our message, you know, validated. In fact, people who love celebrity, who love the trappings of wealth, which they don't really acknowledge, right? They see success, they see all this other bullshit. They're right not. I have to tell you the truth, right? They're right not to team up with me, because in this society, I am irrelevant. I have less political power, right? So
Can you see me?
I can see you, yeah.
Okay, because
So,
I'm about to be in the comments too. I didn't even know we could do that.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Just join on in, yeah. So the fact of the matter is that our activism, which is real, cannot compete against the fakes. And what happens is that
Never mind.
progress on these issues is prevented from ever moving forward, because the people who have been personally affected, the people who have been victimized, those are the people whose voices are silenced. For the people who have not suffered and they're willing to let certain things go. That's why they are made into fuck, because their activism is acceptable, because it will not disrupt the status quo. That's what it is.
Yeah, and that's how it's always been. I think that it's gonna start making a turn soon. Like I can only hope, but it seems like people are starting to get hip to some of this, and you know, maybe the population is just getting so big that it's the same percentage of people who's always been engaged in activism, but that's yielding us more people.
That there's people who believe that things are getting better. That's a huge mistake. That's what, right. I'm not saying Martin Luther King's right about everything, right? But people don't believe when I say it. I've been watching other communities like myself. I was homeless at the age of 16. I lived against migrants, people who came out of jail. People try to pimp me, right? When I was a kid, right? Yeah, look, I didn't go for that shit. You know what I mean? I had a real life. I know I don't look like I've been poor. I know I don't look like I'm a fucking victim. You'll never let's go. You never experience this. So I'm telling you right now, to make something else stop status quo, I'm working on it. But the fact of the matter is, once again, right, when the other side is funded at the rate of 100, sometimes 1,000 to 1, Trent Poole just got $8.5 million, $8.5 million to run the fucking RFK campaign. The most he ever made before was $500,000. But somehow I'm supposed to compete against $8.5 million fucking dollars as an Asian American actress, which no one's ever heard in their life. You have no. Tell black people that they don't know what racism is. Tell black people that all they got to do, right? Yeah, tell them that yo, come on, man. Because I don't look, because I have no credibility. You can tell me how to fix my fucking life. You can tell me, right? Stop with the loser talk. I'm smart. Shut the fuck up. I'm still nobody. I'm still ain't shit. I'm still getting evicted. I'm still nobody. I'm still fucking doing fucking events, getting 100 views while Sabby Sab's doing fucking 5,000 to 10,000 views for talking about Jimmy Dore or whatever, right? Or Candace Owens, right? People don't, because the fact of the matter is that this society, it's not even their fault, right? This society wants a face they can relate to, a story they can relate to. They can't relate to my story. They can't relate to people who've been disabled. They can't relate to people that have been wrongfully incarcerated for decades of their fucking lives. They can relate to the hippie they've seen on TV. They can relate to the anti-war activist who they've seen movies about. They can't relate to me. That's why my whole fucking coalition is disabled. People who's fucking homeless. People, normal people can't fucking relate to.
It's super disingenuous to insinuate that we, who do every fucking thing, aren't doing enough. It's like, well, keep on doing. Like, why don't you jump in this fucking fight too? Why don't you help us? Why don't you jump in the web and you can help connect those dots so we can come up with a thing together? Since you seem to think that a thing, or you know,
oh shit, what happened here? Oh, shit. What is this?
We're still on, right?
Give me a second. Yeah, I'm coming back. Yeah, some weird shit is going on here.
Okay, just so you know, I can still hear you and see you, and the clock on the live button is still going.
And frazzled out here.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna take this opportunity because it's 4:20 somewhere.
I appreciate you. Yeah, hold up. I'll be back in a second. Yeah, it should be back in a second.
No, you're good.
Okay, my input got switched. Yeah. Look, I'm just really super. I'm going through a lot right now. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, like my acting here is getting fucking torched. I'm about to be evicted and shit. I'm about to be living on the fucking street. I swear to God, but I'm gonna be living with dead fucking serious. Probably on a couple months, right? Yeah, my court date is on April. I already been to court like times already. So this community, right? They just had on fucking February 14th. They had a fucking on the 15th for the activist groups sponsored by Columbia. They had a speed dating event while I'm getting thrown out into the fucking street, and this community doesn't give a fuck about me. Look, I'm so sorry. I'm so like, and the fucking
No, don't apologize. One of the reasons why it came about that I was even came to intentional communities is the housing crisis. We can't, activists ain't going to be able to do anything if we can't solidify stable housing. I live in a mobile home and it's stable-ish, but they're literally talking about selling the mobile home because of capitalism. They want more money, or they're not. Yeah. It's not like we still pay. I pay very little money by consideration to how much money people are paying most places. I know in Vegas,
they'll raise your car insurance. What
the whole line.
Who want to get you, they're gonna get you. And people who live homeless, it's a highly illegal lifestyle.
But I wanted the reduction down, the step down from the total plan of doing intentional communities was to crowdfund the basic infrastructure. So I want to crowdfund people. I want to crowdfund in my community to be able to have one of the mobile homes that's empty in my community be able to house and funnel, kind of like an underground fucking railroad for activists to be able to stay. Oh, you need a place to stay here. But I want one in every major city. I want one. That's why I came up with the evolution of that, which was the communities. But we need to start crowdfunding housing just in singular units just singular units in our communities. One house on the block needs to be bought by everybody who claims to be from that fucking neighborhood. One apartment or one apartment complex. Everybody needs to crowdfund and cover that $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 rent, so that activists can responsibly move in and out of there, have a place to stay, but solidify their activism. Because a lot of activists are homeless. I've been homeless 18 years out of my whole life, and I was an activist the entire time. And people wanted to make it seem like they were
When I
holding
go,
me.
I'm gonna spend a lot of time in the gym. I'm gonna get all buffed the fuck out, and it's gonna be good for my health. Honestly, I'm gonna spend less time acting, but I might be able to actually do a homeless activist kind of like live off the land type of and maybe I'll do that with you, right? So that's a real possibility for this channel. So I'm still trying to decide how things are gonna go for me. There's been a lot of unique opportunities that came up with the change of Trump into office to potentially hold local Democrats responsible or to make them acknowledge what's happened to actual war victims like myself in the anti-war, right? You've never seen a Palestinian come on my show. You know why? Because the white fucking millionaire leaders in the socialist movement, who's actually has a lot of influence on the Palestinians, told them all not to work with him. And the thing is that, right, try to find these Palestinians working on public housing issues, people who've been wrongfully, go look for them. Go find me one. Go ahead. Yeah? They don't need to be that because they're lifted by their white millionaire fucking friends. Hey, Karu's been on the same. Look, I'm so sorry. I'm so bitter. Yeah, you don't deserve any of this. You've been nothing but a friend. Yeah, but it is what it is, right? Like,
This is my wheelhouse, buddy. Because I'm tired of people. I'm tired of people pussyfooting around all the topics. You're not disrespecting me. You're not disrespecting any communities. You're literally speaking your piece because this is what you've gone through. And too many times people want to tone police us. And I'm going through a lot with my brother. That's really the only thing that's going on in my life right now. But I wish somebody would try to tone police me while I'm talking about my fucking brother. They know better. Literally, people have heard me cry about my brother on TikTok Live, and they have talked to me to calm me down out of respect, but they never once tried to tone police me because A, they know I'm valid and my emotions are valid, and they didn't try to invalidate them, and B, they know it's all true. They were just, the only reason why they were trying to calm me down is because I was saying stuff that literally can get motherfuckers knocking on your front door. As long as you're not doing that, that's when I'll stop. I won't tone police you, but I'll be like, hey, bro, don't forget that these motherfuckers send the popos out for less. But you're not being harmful to me. You're not being harmful to my community. So
I appreciate. I have urgency driving me. I'm not sure about your situation, right? I know you're trying to find homes for some people. There's people like K. Marie Presley. I don't know if you've ever seen that video on her, but she's really getting beat up in her own home. There's people that are facing imminent eviction. There's my man, Mark Saffman. I don't know, he hasn't really put the story out, but I've been helping him. Just so you know, even though he's working for like Accessible Pedestrian Signals, his sister was actually trying to steal his inheritance from him because he was adopted as a deaf-blind person, and they're trying to cut him out the will right after. It's really disgusting, right? That's just what it is. And and people have been wrongfully incarcerated for decades, even though they have a letter from the DA's office saying that they should be free, or saying that the evidence was faulty, right? It's not being addressed. So I'm starting to lose credibility because the people that I'm working with are not actually getting advancement on the results. And all I really care about really is results, right? Yeah, I don't want to say I fought for this fight and did nothing for my people. I have people that are facing eviction, people that are literally homeless right the fuck now. I mean, I know people in the shelters. I know about the city program, the federal programs to help people who is homeless.
Right, and to help people keep their houses. Shit stretched thin and going under because of Trump.
And these people in public housing who are elderly, some of them don't speak a lot of English. Some of them are elderly. They have disabilities. They're not ready to move into the situation that I hear you talking about. Like maybe there would be, but just from my own experience with intentional communities and seeing what's there, is it really set for someone who doesn't speak English? Is it really set for someone who's wheelchair bound? Is it really? They need to kind of the system that's there for them right now. Or once again, with the wrongfully incarcerated, we're trying to, at the state level, pass laws saying that, like Texas has the best compensation law out of all the states, according to Vincent Moto, the first man on DNA evidence. If Pennsylvania hits them, we're trying to get that passed in Colorado. So I don't know if you do any legislative work, but we were looking for help there. And as in terms of setting up intentional communities, I don't really, it's possible, but There are some like technically intentional communities like the homeless shelters that exist, but those are already being capped out and being taken over by commercial. And I have no doubt, by the way, that once the intentional community is set up, there's a lot of people who are trying to set up their own sovereign lands or trying to set up their own little like off-grid communities. Those communities will be encroached upon when things get tight, eminent domain, other shit like that. And will they be able to defend themselves? So I would
Honestly,
recommend.
the other intentional communities that you would talk about, they would have a much better ability to defend themselves because the communities I'm talking about are decentralized all the way through and through, meaning there's no core goal other than to sustain the communities. There is a heavy expression of eco responsibility and sustainability and even reaching towards abundance. But there's no, other than the conduciveness of the community, there's no after force to ensure that people keep engaging in that. I honestly think it will come from a natural differentiation from the harmful, distracting BS that has been put in front of us to the nurturing, conducive, equitable
So
type
I do.
of.
Um, okay, so the thing is, Colorado. I don't know how Colorado's affected this, but I know that California has a lot of water issues, and I'm not sure if maybe right. I heard that Trump did some things. I don't
Oh,
know.
Colorado has lots of water issues.
So yeah. So okay. So we know that sometimes right, like decisions made upstream, like people are saying, oh, I
Right.
have like he says, oh, I have the rights to your water. Oh my God, you know what I mean? We're gonna sell your water. That's insane, right? But
They're not
so
playing that shit in Colorado. They actually harbor shotguns for that shit. Like they are like these farmers. They literally are out here in front of the house, like
yeah,
no,
you gotta do it.
that's my water.
You gotta protect your own stuff. I swear to
And
God, it's not the shotgun. I'm sorry to say, like sometimes it's really like that. When it push
well, and
comes to, go
they
ahead.
tried to take to make it illegal to collect rainwater here too, which what didn't help things at all. But they failed because there's no way that you're gonna pass that shit. There's just no way.
They be trying, right? They be trying. That's
They
why,
keep
right?
trying.
You should have people
It's the,
exactly, and when they
that is
backed by the
that
money,
is the that is the most un-American piece of legislation I ever heard in my life.
okay. Here's another thing, right? Yeah, Nestle will spend millions of dollars trying to acquire that water. How much money are people, normal citizens of Colorado, paying into activists to try to help them retain their water rights? They're not. So eventually, the industry will win. Maybe they have some water lovers, right? Maybe they have a couple, but for the most part, that's what happens in activism. Or it gets returned into something else, or they make up some lies, and then somehow one of those lies eventually catches. So, yeah, you guys got to defend your water. You know what I mean? You have a nice dream, but I think that you need to actually establish political control. I don't think it's good enough to build a separate society and hope that the current society isn't going to mess with you or try to impact you or take your stuff. Eventually, right, the current people with power now are going to look on you guys and say, you know, we need some of their stuff. We're going to go take it.
Well, it's a two-parter there because, like I said before, it's not meant as a separate external system. It's meant as a really, really good bandage, but not anything more than that. It's this system needs to go bye-bye. Um, but it is a method for transitioning, for removing our participation in this system, and also it reduces incoming, like it reduces the the um, environmental the environmental influence by reducing how all of the, let's say that our community members, our on-site community members, are ordering things from the internet. Instead of those things going 50 different places to 50 different areas of the same town or the same state, now it goes to one place, and then those people grab their stuff from from the mailboxes. But it consolidates incoming resources and it reduces outgoing waste because it reduces the amount of energy into going into allocating all these resources. And you're absolutely right, because like I said, another community might have a better chance at defending themselves while this is developing, because while we're still in the system, a lot of, because it's very decentralized and utilizes a decentralized decision making process, there really is no mechanism for us to say, all right, you guys, they're coming to take our land now. A squad to the front, B squad behind them, C squad to the, like, take your positions. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be like that, because essentially what I'm talking about operates exactly like a timeshare place, but doesn't have those stupid ass fucking fees or that stupid ass circus when you try to pull out of it. It's my idea is literally timeshare, but
Yeah.
the fees we get to determine, the membership fee we get to determine, and you can come in and exit out whenever you want. With timeshares, they literally have a whole bunch of loopholes, and they got all kinds of secret hidden shit written in there to keep you tied in. But that's all my idea is, essentially, is timeshares, but without the predatory fees or without the harassment and trying to lock people into some kind of pyramid schemy ass fucking circle where they can't get out.
Okay.
That's
I'm going to
it's not it's not a total social redo, or even it's just another reaction, another possible band-aid.
Okay. I'm going to actually shout out on the Smurf account. They asked a question. I just want to answer that real quick. He said, "Are the Republicans helping you or not?" And that's actually something that I've actually had some, just so you know, here in New York, right, the Democrats are in control. And the fact of the matter is that the Republicans are a de facto resistance party. Now, the fact is that, right, this term Republicans, Democrats, let's be real, okay? Michael Bloomberg ran as a Republican, right? These labels don't really mean anything to the people who's running things. They just do it for ballot access or whatever. Now, because Republicans are overall, right, Republicans do help me somewhat, right? Just so you know, not all of them. And there's Democrats helping me somewhat, and not all of them, right? And there's people who's independents helping me. So, but overall, I do have a better relationship with the Republicans, and I'm a registered Republican right now. And a lot of the frustrations that I have right now that you see coming to life on this program are, right? We saw Biden, right, engaging in sniffing girls. We saw Biden with Hunter, right, with all that naked stuff going on. We saw the sexual abuse going on, right? Tara Reid. The same things are popping up, and actually Tulsi Gabbard, who's actually who I was a huge fan of, right? Tulsi Gabbard is hanging out with Russell Brand, a known sex predator, right? Hanging out with Puff Daddy, hanging out with Nick Brana, hanging out with Trent Poole, who you can Google, choked and punched a woman in the face here in New York City. Okay? The same Holly weirdo bullshit is going on the Republicans that's going on the Democrats, 100%. And both sides have people resisting it, and both sides have people that are embracing it. And the people that I was closest to, unfortunately, Dion, I know that you say that you know Dion Smurf account, right? Yeah? The anti-vax, the RFK is all around that shit. I'm so sorry to say. Yeah? Okay. Anyways, let's so once again, getting back to this, okay, that's a little because you're close to. I'm gonna get back to. I'm gonna address this last thing, and then I'm gonna get back to Evolve Seeds and see where we can make progress. It's a little hypocritical. I'm close to Republicans. You can't denounce stuff like Rage Against the War Machine when Trump is the known predator. Okay. Well, okay. Let's talk. The thing is that, right? It's not so much, and I'm glad to talk about this with Evolved Seeds right here and Michael Morris, right? Yeah, because Michael has like been doubtful about the things I've been saying about Trump. So let me just talk to him as well. The fact of the matter is, it's really not about Trump, right? I've never worked with him personally or physically, right? And I don't trust. You can see the news is not reporting my stuff, so why report on Trump accurately? The fact of the matter is that the Trump community, right? I have all this on record, right? Of myself going to the Democrats and asking for help with the wrongfully incarcerated. People have been homeless, right? Yeah. All the people with disabilities. Out of all the groups that I work with, only disabilities got some help. All the rest of us went into the garbage. And the thing is that the Democrats are in control in this area, and it's the natural thing of power. So because the local community, as the de facto resistance group, has helped me to get my issues resolved, right? Yeah. It's not about Trump. Trump is just one person who gives a rat's ass, right? Yeah, he's just one person. I'm not perfect either, but the fact of the matter is that Trump doesn't talk to me, Kamala doesn't talk to me, fuck both of them. I talk with the people who work with me, like Michael Morris right here, who have time. I don't do one-way relationships. So if you're talking with me, if you're working with me, if we're actually making progress and you give a shit about me, we got business. But otherwise, right? But once again, it's not about Trump, it's about Trump's community that's actually backing me here in New York, actually helping, right, address the issue of Nolan Farrell, Reverend Keith Gadsden, addressing the issues of, right, public housing, such as Ralph Nader supported the destruction of Fulton Chelsea houses, whereas Michael Zimbleskis, the Republican candidate, right, how deep is his commitment towards helping public housing? That's a good question. Honestly, I'm not really sure how deep it is, really, right? Honestly, the people in public housing are the weakest electorally. I'll be real with you, right? Yeah, they're too comfortable. They got a place to sleep. They're not in the same condition as me. Single men don't get into public housing. We get thrown into the shelter system. Women with children, they get in. Families get in. Not single men like me. But that's not talked about. That is not part of the conversation, right? And there's a lot of brothers out there that's a victim of this too. So I can fucking denounce stuff like Trump, whatever, yeah? Listen, I can't denounce stuff like when Trump is a known predator. Yes, I fucking can, and I will. I will condemn it where it happens to the Democrats. I'll condemn it where it happens to the Republicans. I will condemn it anywhere it fucking happens, anywhere where there's sexual abuse, anywhere where there's money being stolen, anywhere where people without a voice, like war victims, like the right, yeah, which is making this country more dangerous. Okay, so I'm gonna come back to Mike. I don't want to the grifters of the independents. What about the independence community, the people who believe in an alternative? Okay, so last thing for you, before I back to Mike, yeah. So the grifters, the independent community, it's the relationship with power. That's all it is. So no one is immune from this. Not Michael, not myself, not Trump, not you. No one is all good or all bad. Anyways, yeah. So okay, Israel, we're gonna. Okay. I'm not gonna spend the whole time. Let's talk to Mike. Okay, I'm sorry. Come on my account sometime, with Smurf account. Yeah, we can have our own one-on-one, but I don't want to spend my time with Michael just addressing. Sorry about that. Yeah, Michael's a special friend, and I'm very happy to see him. Very rare to find another anarchist.
I appreciate you having me here.
Okay.
And it's okay. Like I get you got to manage your space because we can't have misconceptions. There's already too many misconceptions about the nature of how we interact with this system. When we're standing on principles, so that's the number one thing that separates a lot of anarchist activists from a lot of other activists, is that we don't have the luxury of swaying for one group or another, or making excuses for one group or another because we don't belong to either group. So we have to articulate wrong and harm objectively. Especially DJ fashions journalism. He doesn't fashion opinion. He doesn't do opinion pieces. Like this is the expression of what the United States thought that it was encapsulating when it mentioned only one profession in the entire Constitution, or I think it was the Declaration of Independence, which was journalism. That's what is being done here. So he's checking who needs to be checked, when they need to be checked, because all of them are fucking suspect, obviously.
Yeah, and also even when we talk about intentional communities, right? Like, I know there's like a lot of well-meaning ideas, but the implementation, once again, right, does it live up to that? So we're gonna see. But I do have more faith in Michael. Once again, he actually has the time to actually, discuss and right. Yeah, that's a good sign, right? More authenticity. So.
If you check out my website, evolvingseeds.com, I have it written in detail.
Yeah.
In vivid detail. It's actually a work of art. Because you're right. There's so much that goes into this, and I can't predict everything and I can't prevent everything. But damn if I didn't try.
I think I think my own personal philosophy is that we need to actually be able to interact with the powers that be of the United States right now, because you take a look at Monsanto and how they like illegalized like seeds and stuff. You know what I mean? Like they could attack your water. They could start upping your taxes. There's a lot of ways they can actually, right? You can think you have everything set, but you make your plans, and then the other side decides that once their revenue stream gets shut off because they're exploiting, right, workers and people like yourself. Once that exploitation ends, you think they're just going to let it happen? What do you think? I can't hear you. You're muted.
You're absolutely right. I had it muted. You're absolutely right. Luckily, though, these people have many different things working against them simultaneously, such as the fact that their entire way of life is now it's unraveling, and so they're having to make up like more lies on top of the lies to try to justify to their little political bases what's really happening right in front of their face. And they're like, oh, hate these people, hate these people. And they're like, yeah, we hate those people, but we still got high prices over here. What you doing about that? And they're like, yeah, we're getting to that. Just keep hating them people over there. Like, all right. But now I'm watching you because I already hate them, but the prices are still going up. You said they was going to go down. So people are having to check their reality because what they're being told is by their so-called quote unquote leaders is not what's happening on the ground. So they're having to experience cognitive dissonance. That's the only reason why I appreciate Trump and his presidencies is that he literally reveals he is the ultimate dog whistle. He's a magnet for shit, and now we know where all the shit is, and now we just gotta wipe our ass.
I tell you why I got attracted so much. There's also like part of it because the if you take Malcolm X called the liberal, right, the liar, right, or the wolf in sheep's clothing. So I'm so unhappy with the destruction of my own under the Democrats, right? The Democrat progressives, they have a hierarchy where, and blacks have suffered in this country, right? And they're the pioneers of the civil rights movement, and I give them so much credit. And by the way, blacks are helping in many ways that openly and more confrontationally with the system with me in ways that other groups are not. And I really definitely appreciate them for that. But within the progressive world, right, once again, because blacks are politically powerful, right? And this actually, you'll see this happen with like lesbians and actually Asian Americans too, right? Because blacks are the default counterculture race. So you'll say like, why are these people all acting black, right? Because they don't want to act normal white society. So they just grabbed onto the most easily, understandable counterculture, which is the black culture here in the United States, right? And it also has like an element of coolness, right? If I speak with a Chinese accent, I guess it could be considered cool, like Uncle Roger and stuff. Okay, like maybe, I don't know. And I could also play a clown and be a cuck. That's what that's what they reward in this country for Asian Americans. So like, it is what it is. So anyways, how can we work?
I do understand that aspect though, because that goes back into how people are dehumanized into the stereotype or into the perpetual image of some bullshit for the sake of proximity to whiteness and whiteness itself. It's like, well, I don't have to say that on here. I'm used to TikTok whiteness. It's like
you said that Trump is all the shit, right? And I get that, right? But the thing is that there's a lot of shit on the other side as well too.
And it actually it reveals them too, because as far as I'm concerned, the whole fucking thing is a cult, and so Trump is just the spokesperson for the people who really believe in the cult, and the other side, they also believe in the cult, but they actually don't agree the way these people, or they don't behave and think the way these people think, but they still want the same system of fuckery to be in place. So I get you there. My whole thing is, like you said, like you were quoting Malcolm X. I want to see my enemy. I don't want these little whitewashed, confused enemies that literally one one issue they're your best friend, and a different issue they're the total enemy. The next issue they're a total supremacist, and the next issue their empathy buttons are on. I don't want that wishy washy. I want to know that those people over there do not respect my existence and support systems that will legitimize their bigotry, and versus people who want the same things as these people but pretend like they're on our side. You know what I'm saying? So you're absolutely right. I just appreciate a bold-faced, die-hard, stone cold in your face racist over a fucking talk behind your back, say some snooty racist shit right after your ass walk out the room, ass fucking leftist Democrat fucking liberal motherfuckers. I ain't got nothing for none of them, but I definitely take a fucking red hat over a fucking a fake any day.
This right here, what I'm showing you right now is precision strategies, okay? And precision strategy is actually the campaign management team for Kamala Harris. Now, the thing is that after I did a report on them, because I've already done it, right? Let's take a look if they have, do they have a section here for DEI? They used to have it, right? Let's see. Oh, diversity, okay. Their rating before was 2.8, right? They jacked up to 3.2, which at 3.2 out of 5 is still 64% or failing, okay? It used to be 2.8, right? Before I actually did a study on this and revealed this shit, and then they pumped up 1.5 rating. This is actually Kamala Harris's. It's the DEI, right? The racism of Trump, right? Like, this is a cloaked, right? They actually, you'll see like the comments here about how they say this is no place for Black or Latino women and stuff like that. This is actually an acceptable racism. This is a racism which is cloaked and hidden, and it's actually, in some ways worse than the racism that there is some racism that exists on the right side, right? But the racism on the left is cloaked and more dangerous. Does that make sense to you? It's acceptable.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's diet racism.
I'd rather drink regular Coke than Diet Coke. You know what I mean? That Diet Coke has the chemicals and the weird stuff in it. It's fake and it's artificial.
The weird stuff in it, right? Yeah.
Diet Coke is. Yeah. So how can we make progress together, right? Like I have to be very I do think that having a friend in Colorado is a very key friend, right? Yeah. There's a lot of important stuff going on, but in terms of the sustainability, the growing crops and stuff, I'm gonna be on the streets, man. I'm not growing nothing. You know what I mean? Maybe I may get into another, but I do have a large connection. I may have another spot that I might be in East New York. So shout out to my people out there who may have something set up for me later on, or I might actually go look for a spot under a bridge. Or something. We're gonna see where this ends up. It's gonna be fucking exciting. But I don't have land to set up. I don't really. And before, when you said about the rules for the communities that you were designing and stuff, just being burned over and over again. I really, in my heart, I learned that the rules are only for the people who are the cool or the popular or the powerful, and the rules never apply the same for me. So, not right. Even if you want to do the right thing, you're not in control. It's whoever's in that community, and that community has learned certain things. And has not learned other things about my people, has learned things about disability people, and has not learned other things. They're just a regular group of 5 normal people you collect off the street are not ready to live with a blind person and really or they have to do some training. They got to learn. They don't know about blind people's issues. They're not ready for that. Or it would be an eye-opening experience, but for the blind person, it's going to be it's not going to be the same experience, right? You take 4 regular people and a blind person, you put them into a summer camp or something. Maybe the blind person is exceptionally, outgoing and gregarious, and people like that person, and maybe they can, overcome, right, the barriers. But there is a barrier to the interaction with the rest of the crew. So, and by the way, a lot of people in alternate communities, or are actually a little kooky and actually are looking for something where they didn't fit in with regular society. That's okay, you know what I mean? Regular society has a lot of problems, but once again, right, when you deal with people that are homeless, poverty, they've been through a lot, so they come to these communities often with a lot of baggage. Not always, but sometimes. I have it. I don't think I could fit into a regular.
No, you're
But
absolutely right.
yeah,
Everybody. It's not just some, it's everybody. We all carry our own baggage, and that's part of it. That's part of the process of reconnecting to a communal, more of a communal lifestyle. But the whole idea too behind these communities is that they will be living alongside of these people, but that is how it works now. Like if a blind person moved in right next door to you now, you're not obligated to, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but you're not obligated to change your life to accommodate them, and likewise they're not obligated to change their life to accommodate your lack of awareness to their situation. Again, my idea is simply functions as an Airbnb style hotel style setup, to where you're not obligated. If you're paying your membership fee, you're not obligated to participate in anything. If you are
so
someone
why
who
do
does,
that outside of the regular American society? Why do that separate in an intentional community versus just being another? You could be an intentional community inside of like another community, but does this intentional community mean not necessarily taking power within American society, like just kind of like living
right,
off on your own?
it's not, it's half and half, because one of the things that this does, it gives us voting power. Because as a member you would automatically be a stockholder, shareholder, employee, and beneficiary of the trust. You literally are also a landowner. So now we have political pool. You can actually run for office. Like there's a county here called Saguache County, but you can only run for office if you're a landowner. Well, there's uh, a community that's not like what we're talking about now. It's really capitalism all the way. It's called Area 420. We feature them on our website. They literally are cannabis growers, and so they're hyper focused on cannabis growth, and that's their niche. That's what they're doing. But um, there's no obligation to, and we're not trying to disconnect. Oh, but I lost my train of thought, but I got it back. Area 420, because you're a landowner, you literally have the ability, and they have gradually gotten the ability for people who live there to run for office, which will enable more equitable decision making. But sadly, it would be with respect to cannabis legislation, because that's what their focus is. But to my point, we would be able to do the same thing, but across a variety of different issues, because we would be technically all landowners, activists with that are also landowners in a specific community. We do inherently collect some type of political power, but that political power is very local, which means very real, very tangible, and very malleable, which is what we're going for. Not necessarily that national big stage shit, but just that county, municipal type of interaction, and the ability to really know who's governing in the immediate sense, not overall. But that's
Colorado's
where. Say again.
Colorado is known as a playground for a lot of millionaires, stuff like that, right? With the
Oh
skiing and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
how, how hard is it to actually get property and say, like maybe make a deal with the city or like, the state and say, you know what, we want to get a lease for this property for 100, 200 years. Can you give us we have guaranteed rights to this particular area. Is there anything like that maybe you guys could set up? Or is it
One of
realistically?
my
Go ahead.
one of my activist friends, one of my peers, he put me up on this. I forgot what it is now with the exact organization. It's a government. It's an aspect of government or a function of government, but they basically look at land that has been contaminated to the point where they can't sell this land to real estate, and real estate can't sell it to people because it's that bad. But this particular branch of the United States thing will pay people to go into these areas and rehabilitate them, and the fee for you being able to rehabilitate these areas is that you get to keep the area as your own property.
Can you give me an example of some of the examples of problems that these areas are infested with?
Oh man, like some of these areas have been hit with asbestos. There's it's somewhere they used to have a lot of asbestos. and ain't nobody trying to get rid of that shit. The United States got like a lot of this shit is sitting around just decaying, like the infrastructure of the United States. But asbestos, I would argue some nothing that's nuclear or radioactive, but damn close. Sometimes it might even be toxic waste. So it's toxic
Yeah.
waste. It ain't nuclear waste, but it's toxic waste. That type of thing.
Actually, let me tell you. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a quick story. Yeah. So the thing is that not only have I been here in New York, but I also spent some time upstate in a place called Newburgh, New York, which actually had the second highest murder rate in New York State. A huge amount of poverty, and the thing is that that area had something called PFAS, PFAS. It's like Scotchgard. It's a type of military, chemical used to seal things off, right? So the thing is that this stuff got into the water supply, and actually, I know a lot of people there that actually have cancer. The kids have cancer from this water, right? Now the thing is that because this property, once again, people don't want to live there because of the environmental disaster that happened. You could look it up for yourself, okay? I was living in the community. I know people that have cancer. Um, their kids have cancer. It's quite sad. But the thing is that this area has a prison nearby, and it also has HUD money that went to the community to build homes. And you can't build homes with federal money and then just have it sit empty. So what happens is that they're actually closing up the public housing here in New York City, and what they're doing is they're having, right. So just to let you know, right, this is a possibility for the properties you're looking at, right? What happens if they take all, and being homeless since the age of 16, I've seen this over and over again, all the undesirables, the migrants, the people coming out of prison, right, the poor people, they're all lumped together. So the thing is that Governor Hochul, has actually asked for a law to pass new high-density housing zones by transportation networks. So the people that are living here in New York City, right, public housing, stuff like that, that are part of this community, they will now be moved upstate to Poughkeepsie, 2 hours, 3 hours away out of New York City. So they will come down to the city, and the people who bought their homes and became millionaires from their properties going way up in value, okay, they will be able to serve them, clean their homes, etc. Then they can take the 2 hour, 3 hour ride to go back home to Poughkeepsie, New York, where they're not right, where there's a crack epidemic, where there's still environmental problems. They're actually on the same water supply as New York City now, right? Because they couldn't trust their own water. But you can see those problems erupting in other places. So you might choose to live there, right? And then at the beginning, it might be you there. But then guess what? The local prison, right? They're going to be put into your area. And I'm sympathetic to prisoners. But once again, right? The prisoners, what they need is resources. And will the prison be put into Soho? Or, those plush downtown, Colorado resorts where all the millionaires go? No. Then they're not going there. So they're going to be stuck with you where there's no jobs, environmental problems. That's what happens here. So I could see you trying to carve it out there, right? But you might imagine it's just yourself there living alone. I hope that's the case. But pretty soon, all the rest of the rejects are going to throw your way. Make sense?
Absolutely, because this area, especially the area I'm in, is very rural, perfect for them planning a prison somewhere. And I don't fear that because I went to prison, so I know I'm very familiar with that whole in going in and going out, and returning to society, as it were, especially with no rehabilitation programs in sight offered at the prison the entire time I was there. And of course, they had the semblance of it, but in order to pass or to get accreditation, you had to go through the whole program. And in Nevada, they just move you around so that you can never complete a single course. Uh, and never, you can learn something from it, but that's a personal choice. The average motherfucker isn't in that state of mind to really use this to learn from. They're really focused on, like, I'm going to do this so I can get a couple days or a couple months off my sentence. And that ends up not happening and piss them off even more. But I understand completely what you're saying, and I am working on this from a individual perspective too. I'm looking for land so that I can get my family in a position. But as I'm doing that, I am step by step looking at the macro. So I'm investigating the microcosm, and I'm investigating the macrocosm, and I'm investigating the microcosm's relationship to the macrocosm to
So,
ascertain. Go ahead.
what can I do for you, right? Yeah, I'm here in New York, right? Yeah, I'm trying to find out how we can work together in a way that's productive. I have a lot of things going on. There's actually in tomorrow, actually, it's the 24th already. On the 25th, petitioning opens, and there's other relations. So there's a lot going on over here. Once again, I am very happy to talk to an anarchist brother. Maybe I will participate in some of the other things. I'm not sure exactly. I took a look at some of Corey's content. I think that's his name. He's on the Evolving Seeds thing, and a lot of the work
Oh
once
yeah,
again.
yeah.
What I'm sorry, what's that?
No, I was just agreeing with you, and I was saying yes.
Yeah.
And one thing you could do for me is what you're already doing right now. You're platforming me. I presume on the way out, I have the ability to have closing statements, and
Oh,
the website's right there. Like my name is the website, and our website is just solutions focused activism. So what I need, you're already giving me, because there's nothing else that can be done right now. I mean, one thing beyond what you're doing right now is to assist me in your very spare time, which I don't think you have any. um, I have a challenge to for you only because I recognize that you are someone who is into doing it like myself, which is researching. I'm trying to find the proper legal structure for what I'm looking for without having to go to an attorney. And I know a person who knows the law like the back of their hand. It's somewhat of an activist, I suppose, but they want to charge me $75 to tell me which type of legal structure it is. But I'm 100% sure I can come to that conclusion through investigation. And I don't want to do this. I don't, because we are the first people starting it. I don't want to do it half-assed, and I definitely don't want to acquiesce to bullshit like from the beginning, from the very jump. So I want to research and be sure myself which is the proper legal structure. So that's kind of where I'm stuck at, is what is the proper legal structure? Because what
I
I'm
would
trying to
think that
do,
Colorado, even though you said you don't want to be hippies, but there's quite a few hippies in Colorado. I would think that there's already quite a few intentional communities in Colorado.
yeah,
Have
yeah,
you contacted
it's
any of them?
it's it's a because for two reasons. The various counties of Colorado are still, excuse me, the various counties of the world, namely the United States, namely Colorado, are actively engaged in warfare against the concept of sustainable or intentional communities. Even when you look at the concept of tiny homes, the concept of tiny home communities to do something about the houseless, how unhoused community in the United States has been on and on and on dockets for the last 20 years in
Well,
literally every
how are they gonna,
state.
how are they going to get tax money from these people? These people
Right.
not.
That's
Yeah, they
that's
don't
the
want.
whole problem. Well, it's more than that too. They know that affordable having this type of housing will disincentivize young people's mind. Like in the mind, young people will intrinsically say, "Why would I go to college and bust my ass off to pay for a place that costs $3,000 a month when I could literally work at an averagely okay place and be able to afford this little spot, which might cost $40 or $120 a month or less?" Some of these, because the way I'm talking about doing it, of course, obviously, if you were unhoused, you wouldn't be paying anything. You would satisfy your membership by engaging in the community's many occupations, such as the housekeeping, the cooking. No different than the system at large, except that you aren't bound to be there 8 hours a day. You might only have to do 2 or 3 hours to satisfy your membership. And if you did 4 hours that day, that means you made the highest minimum wage in the country for those extra hours that you did that didn't have anything to do with satisfying your membership. So there's a lot of ability there. But again, this is all reactionary to the system and how it plays out. We're at their mercy in that way, as it were.
Okay, so yeah, like these the intentional communities and stuff like that. What you say makes sense. Um, I'm not really, tell you the truth, that much into intentional communities. Like, not right, not a knock to you, but I'm just dealing with my own, right? Yeah, my own actions, which is really helping communities that are really disregarded or pushed aside. And like I explained, so I'm not really sure how we can really put this together, right? But I'm happy to talk about some of the people in my community may want to join an alternate community. So if you do, once again, hit up Evolving Seeds. If you are interested in, I do have some allies in North Carolina that I haven't talked to for a while, but they're also interested in setting up their own intentional community, and also what's it called, permaculture, these kinds of things. I have some friends upstate in New York even who are into that. But actually, one thing that also want to ask you, the last time I talked with, I think Robert something from Green Party
Robert
last
Shields.
Fields, like Fields, yeah. We had actually been working on some kind of like a program with like some kind of NFL guy who was possibly co-sponsoring. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. I have that on my website.
What
The
happened with it?
Alliance for Reason and Knowledge. It's still on. It's still going. It's just a slow go, especially because everybody's still trying to recover from, and that in inner city, ha, inner systems activists are still trying to recover from the inner system debauchery and debacles that just went on the last several months leading up to the election. So I'm pretty sure, their Green Party, they were backing Jasmine Sherman, which is somebody I speak to who gained popularity on TikTok. So there's a lot of people feel disenfranchised because they had hopes for the system. I don't have that problem. I never have had that problem, and I never will have that problem because I've never had any hope for inner systems activism. I know it does occur because that's how we have so many of the great things we have now, like work weeks that aren't 90 hours, or at least we had those work weeks that weren't 90 hours because of activism. But I get it. I understand where people are at in this because
Well,
this is a
actually,
growth. This is an
those work
evolution.
weeks,
So
those work weeks are coming back. But now what happens is someone has a regular job, and now they have a gig job. You know what I mean? And they're actually working 90 hours, but it's just it's not logged in as that. Or they're a
right,
contractor now. They're not a employee. All this other garbage. They just reinvent the stuff. So
we
yeah.
actually work far more than our ancestors. All of our ancestors, no matter what your skin color is, our ancestors worked less than we work now. Especially when you weigh that and with that bell curve with technology, we have more reason not to be working as much as we do, whereas they had more incentive to work more than they did, and the reasonable amount of and the sustainable amount that sustained them was less than what we do now.
Look, I've done my laundry by hand. Takes a long ass time, right? I'm very happy to have access to the washing machine. So there are some benefits, but yeah, we spend a lot of time working for the boss, right? Yeah, like versus ourselves, right? And that actually has
Right.
become way out of control. So, but people are convinced that we've been taught to be helpless, taught to be weak, taught to be reliant and dependent on the commercial
Right.
product. And
Right. It's changing a little bit. It's getting some semblance. We're coming up on the 2 hour mark. If you want to do the exits, the outros.
yeah, no, it's straight up, right? Evolvingseeds.com. We may be doing some future work together. We'll see. Once again, I'm starting to really pare it down. I'm in a period of transition myself, so I may actually be on the streets. I'm really making those adjustments mentally and setting up the plans.
Well, I'm going to be in contact with you a lot more because there's that's part of what our whole idea is. One thing I wanted to do was crowdfund to raise money to basically have activism be sponsored like anything else, or have what are those things called when you go to school and they pay you because a scholarship. You know what I'm saying? Like activist scholarships. It's like this is somebody and something that needs funding. Let's do it. And Evolving Seas is not our we are a full spectrum solutions focused activism website entity network. We engage in mutual aid. We have a full magazine on there called Stomata Magazine. We are always looking for writers and activists to put their input in. The intentional communities is just literally one small aspect of our plans and what we're doing. It literally makes up about 10% of what we're actually engaged in.
Okay,
Largely,
wait.
it's education.
Actors, actors are usually trying to change the society they're in, but you guys are actually going to form a separate society. So why do you really need activists within this framework?
Because we're not forming a separate society. That's why I said it's a band aid. It's
Okay,
not forming a separate society.
you
It
said half.
is only. Say it again.
You said like a half-half type of thing, right?
like the half-half. It's a transitional space, but as it unfolds initially, it should operate like a business. It should operate like a business so that it can function in a way that is essentially neutral to all of the chaotic bullshit that's going on right now, and we can start to build on that. And that's why I'm not saying it's because they would still have jurisdiction. A very common question people have is, well, what if somebody sexually assaults somebody on this or assaults somebody in these communities? Well, the United States government still has jurisdiction. They're still like, that's a whole ass real crime. That's some shit that investigators will be called for. If the victim of it, informs the community goes to the front desk, a woman goes to the front desk and says another community member just SA'd me, sexually assaulted me. The United States government, the fucking local DA, the district attorney, still has jurisdiction over that case. So we can have our own interpersonal, intercommunity security, but they're going to be trumped, no pun intended, literally. Their so called jurisdiction over the matter will still be irrelevant in the face of the actual United States government still existing. That's why I say this is not, and I want to drive that home so that everybody watching understands, this is not another society. Does not exist outside of the society, the scope, scale, and jurisdiction of this society. Therefore, there's a lot of things we have to acquiesce with to even be able to do it. So we're probably going to have to comply with whatever Motel 6s comply with. We're going to have to comply with whatever Airbnbs comply with. We're going to have to comply with whatever Holiday Inns and Hiltons comply with. And that includes what happens after a crime is committed on these properties. So whatever a Motel 6 has to do, when a woman runs up and tells them they've been sexually assaulted, that's what we're going to have to do. Doesn't matter if we like the police. Doesn't matter if we like the system, because if we don't call the police, we essentially are accomplices.
Yeah. Did you say the Evolving Seeds community had like maybe a community event coming up, or you said you want to participate with something? What's coming up? That is something coming up for the Evolving Seeds community?
We don't. Well, Evolving Seeds is the network. It is the embodiment of the solutions focused activism. Even the idea that I have, we call them gardens because we're supposed to grow them, and we are the evolving seeds that would be in the gardens. But Unistrike is completely delineated and separate from Evolving Seeds. It's a totally different thing. It's something that I have an idea for, but Evolving Seeds is my baby. That's what I rep. I'm the owner and the founder of Evolving Seeds. I don't want to be the owner of Unistrike. That's the exact opposite of its purpose. It's meant to be owned by a collective of individuals, and that collective, it could be blind people, it could be people re-entering from prison, it could be Black people only, it could be a women's only community. Anybody can do the idea that I'm talking about. Any community can do this idea. It is only crowdfunding the resources and the accommodations that we're being aggressively priced out of. I'm not reinventing the wheel. This is not an outside society. This is not an outside civilization. This can and will exist within the scope and scale and jurisdiction of the United States government. And hopefully, if it's successful, act as a transitional component towards other systems that will render capitalism, socialism, and communism irrelevant and unnecessary.
Cool. Okay. Thanks a lot for coming on. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
And be safe out there, man.
I stopped caring. Have it going. All right. God bless. I stopped caring. It's fucking bullshit. God bless. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. You're one of the good ones. We'll see.